Good evening and welcome to the City of Carpinteria City Council regular meeting agenda for Monday, October 28th, 2024. And may we have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Alarcon,
Here.
Councilmember Lee,
Here.
Councilmember Nomura,
Here.
Councilmember Solorzano,
Here.
and Mayor Clark.
Here. Thank you. And now will you all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with indivisible, and justice for all.
Turn that mic towards you because
All right. First order of business is a proclamation recognizing and celebrating the 38th anniversary of the California Avocado Festival. And we have a proclamation. And if we can get the City Council to help read the proclamation.
All right. I'll get it started. Whereas in 1987, members of the Carpinteria community organized a modest community festival that over the years have grown to be recognized in California, across the nation and internationally as one of the best free street and music festival in the world. And
Whereas the organizers determined that the purpose of the festival would be to celebrate avocados, the beauty of Carpinteria, and the spirit of our community, and
Whereas the festival provides a wonderful homecoming for our town with community members of all ages showing up to celebrate together, and
Whereas this year marks the 38th annual anniversary of the annual California Avocado Festival, and
Whereas the festival brings tens of thousands of people to the city and provides an opportunity for many local nonprofits, organizations to fundraise in support of community services, and
whereas as a zero waste event, the Avocado Festival helps to implement the city's sustainable community policy, and
whereas the city, the California Avocado Festival Board, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department, the Carpinteria Summerlin Fire Protection District, and the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, all work together to make the festival a safe, family-friendly festival for our community, and
whereas the city expresses its great appreciation to festival producer Mike Lazaro, festival director Olivia Sorgman, and the California Avocado Festival Board of Directors, including past board president Melissa Brown Simpson, have all played an integral part in the production of the California Avocado Festival and have dedicated significant time, effort, and event expertise. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Carpinteria does hereby recognize and celebrate the 38th anniversary of the California Avocado Festival and heartily thanks Mike Lazaro and the entire Avocado Festival Board of Directors on their efforts to promote and unite the Carpinteria community. And so if we have somebody who will receive this proclamation, we'll invite them up now.
we should take action on that. We should probably vote on that.
Okay, we're going to vote on it, but you could
so moved.
stand by.
second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, Brian. All right, we did that part. Thank you, Wade. Come on in for a photo op.
Very nice. Take a couple, hold a smile. Thank
Yeah, we just wanted to say thank you so much. It definitely is a full community effort to make this happen, and we're so thankful that we get to be a part of this. But without all of you and without police and fire and CERT and all the teams, like this wouldn't be possible. And everybody felt so safe this year, had a great time. Everybody felt like the community was really there. All of you were there, which was wonderful. So just thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. right, second item on the agenda is presentation of a status report of Carpinteria and Montecito libraries, including recommendations regarding Montecito Library joining Carpinteria Community Library by Martin Gomez, Principal Consultant for MJ Gomez and Associates.
Good evening. I'm going to introduce Martine in just a moment. I wanted to just give a really quick background about why we're here and thank the Friends of the Carpinteria Library and the Montecito Library for commissioning this study. In 2020, the Friends of the Library and the Friends of the Carpinteria Library and Friends of the Montecito Library commissioned a study originally by Martine Gomez and Susan Hildreth to determine the options available to the cities or the unincorporated area of Montecito as far as what could be done for their libraries, whether they would be able to be independent or should remain with Santa Barbara Public Library. So in 2020, it was determined that Carpinteria could operate an independent library due to the passage of Measure X in 2018 and the support of the City Council, which began with the creation of Library Ad Hoc Committee in 2019. In 2020, it was determined that Montecito Library was not able to become independent from the Santa Barbara Public Library or join with Carpinteria at that time in the newly established Zone 5. At the City Council meeting on January 11th in 2021, the City Council directed staff to provide an updated report on the potential addition of the Montecito Library to Zone 5. And the staff was given direction that this should occur after the city completed 2 full years of operation, which we did at the end of June 2024. So, Martine Gomez of MJ Gomez and Associates is back for an update on that original assessment.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, members of the City Council and City Manager, and thank you, Jody, for the introduction. As Jody mentioned, I had the opportunity to work with my colleague, Susan Hildreth, on the original study that ended up before you back in 2021 to establish a library in Carpinteria, independent of the Santa Barbara Public Library Zone 1. So I have the honor and privilege to be asked to come back and give you an update. That's what I'm here to do today. My background basically is that I'm a retired or lapsed library director. I was the library director in Los Angeles and Oakland, California, and then on the East Coast in Brooklyn, New York. So I'm pretty familiar with library issues and spent all my career basically working in library land. Some of you, I think, were on the council. Councilmember Lee, I think you were there when I was doing the original report back in 2021. As Jody mentioned, the report today is basically to give you an update on how things are going for the Carpinteria Library, and also to discuss with you a little bit more about the pros and cons of Montecito's interest in becoming a branch or part of the Carpinteria Community Library. So in the written report that you got, there's much more detail. I'm just going to highlight some of the broad strokes for this. Am I operating the PowerPoint or somebody else operating that, or we're not operating it at all? Okay, thank you. So let's go down to, I think it's the third slide. Keep going. Here we go. Just one back. Thank you. So just to let you know, the library systems in California, for county libraries anyway, are organized in a variety of ways. And there are 45 county libraries in California, 22 of which of them are general fund libraries, and 23 have a county dedicated property tax. They're property tax libraries with dedicated funds from property taxes. I just give this to you as a brief background because this is part of the foundation of the discussion that took place back in 20 and 21 when I was involved, but also it's a discussion I think that's been going on in the community for several years, even before that. So this is basically an overview of the structure. And as you know, go to the next slide. In Santa Barbara County, Santa Barbara has created a zone structure for libraries, and this slide just shows you the different zones. I wanted to go to the next slide, please. So this pre-2017 shows you what the Zone 1 looked like before 2017. That was one large zone. You can see that there was Goleta and Montecito and Carpinteria, Santa Barbara were all part of that geography at that point in time. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. And just to illustrate today how much it's changed, this is as of 2023. It's still this system now, but you can see that Zone 1 has was created, it subdivided into another 3 zones. And as you can see, Carpinteria there in the purple is the latest zone, Zone 5. And I wanted to mention, as you are aware, that this is a very unique structure. In all of my experience in libraries and in California, the zone structure that you have in Santa Barbara County is unique. There are other types of libraries, as I mentioned, county libraries, but this is one of the more unique ones. I think it's the only one that has the zone structure. And that's what's been happening over the years, as you can see from 2017 to 2023, 24, is that there are further zones that are being divided, and there's a reason for that. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So what's the issue? Again, wanted to give you an update about the situation in Carpinteria, but one of the reasons that I was asked to come back as well by the Friends of the Montecito Library was to look at, what's happened in the county since 2021 when the report was completed, and also what's happened for the Montecito Friends since then. So a list of things here. These are all issues that the Board of Supervisors worked on through the Library Advisory Committee. There are several projects and studies that have come out since then. They're just itemized here for you, but basically the illustration here is to show you that there has been continued conversation and discussion about the library structure here in Santa Barbara County. There was one of the things that's happened with the zone structure, from my observation and study, is that it's created some equity issues and service issues across the county. No 2 county library zones are the same. They're all dependent on local municipal funding, and that creates unevenness in county library service. And there's also the issue of the libraries that are part of the unincorporated sections of the county that most do not have, if not all, the unincorporated sections do not have any revenue that they bring to the table. And that's the situation with Montecito in particular. Carpinteria, as Ms. Thomas mentioned, now has its own funding from the city's general fund. And Carpinteria is also funded partially by Measure X, which was passed, I think, in 2020. So the library system there, again, is very unique. The issue is the funding scheme. Let's go to the next slide. So I kind of jumped ahead of myself here, but basically there has been a search for solutions to this. The dates that are here are different studies that have happened over the years to try to remedy some of the inequities in funding and inequities in service. And these are just a list of a few. There's been about 6 or 8 studies that have been done over the years to try to remedy the issue. Again, these are discussions that have been taking place at the direction of the Board of Supervisors, but also through the Library Advisory Committee. There have been other consultants that have come in and looked at the situation and made several recommendations. I think the most recent, I guess with the 4th dot down, shows that there was a recommendation for alternative governance structure for the library systems, and the recommendation was for the creation of a finance joint powers of authority, which would have created a more level, equitable funding scheme for library services in the county. At the end of that study, there was a recommendation to look at whether or not there'd be some tolerance for any kind of property tax or sales tax. A firm was brought in to look at that, and in 2024, the conclusion was it was close, but there was concern that there wouldn't be enough support in the community for a new tax, and they looked at it in a couple different ways: sales tax as well as property tax. So that's kind of the background, if you will. One more page, please. Next page. What's happened since that last 2024 study, or it's actually since 2020, is that you've created a new library zone there for Carpinteria. There have been administrative changes at the Santa Barbara Public Library in Zone 1, which Carpinteria was a part of, and Montecito still is a part of. The Santa Barbara Public Library withdrew its membership in the Black Gold Cooperative Library System. Without getting too much into the weeds, the Cooperative Library System is a resource sharing organization that helps facilitate delivery of books, online catalog, delivery systems, IT, and public internet across all the members. And I only bring this up because Santa Barbara Public Library, as the biggest library in the system, means that there's fewer resources across the county for resource sharing, and which is, basically the philosophy behind public libraries is to be able to share resources. And many library systems in California have gone to one card for all. It was, I think, a blow to resource sharing for libraries in the county. Going to the next slide, took a little look at Carpinteria, what's happened since then. This is just a snapshot of some of the highlights. As you know, you are in a county-owned building, open 6 days a week. You've had a staff appointed for the library, including your director, but who has also helped with the migration of staff from employees by the Santa Barbara Public Library to employees of the Carpinteria Public Library, the city of Carpinteria, I should say. And the library has assumed more local responsibility for administrative and management tasks, increased library visits and weekly programs at the library, and local service orientation. In other words, there's been greater ownership of the library locally. This has resulted in a lot of, I think, good things for the community. There's more customized library service programming. You have your own staff. You also have the Friends of the Library who have now been able to redirect some of their efforts to helping to support enhancements to the library and not operating costs, as was previously done before the change in governance. We'll go to the next slide. After looking at the Carpinteria situation, just want to mention that there are the transition to the new library has been very well done. I know there's been a lot of hard work behind it, not just from the community itself, but also the library director, as I mentioned, who had to work to help with that transition. The suggestions for Carpinteria going forward is that the focus on the creation of a new strategic plan for the library, to work with city leadership to create a plan that supports the aspirations of residents of Carpinteria. That's, I think, one of the big benefits of it being an independent library. They don't have to necessarily go with what Santa Barbara might be seen as priorities. They can go with what Carpinteria sees as priorities for the community. And the other part is that the Library Advisory Committee now has its own vote, and they can support, your local Library Advisory Committee member can support on, provide greater support for making changes as needed, because they have a vote as well on the Library Advisory Committee from the county. Let's go to the next slide. The Montecito Library situation, they're open 5 days a week. Again, they are also in a county-owned building. Their budget is just under $500,000 a year. You can see that the Friends are a major contributor to that operating expense. I raised some concerns in my report to you about the use of that money. Certainly, it's their money; they can do with what they want, and that's once they give it to Santa Barbara has a process where they also decide how that money is used. My concern is that that money is helping to subsidize operations, which I think is against the policy that's within the agreement between the city library, Santa Barbara City Library, and the county Board of Supervisors policy. They have a smaller staff. They're open fewer days. Branch administration is all handled by Santa Barbara Public Library. And again, there's continued reliance on Friends to provide financial support for operations. I was asked to look at the pros and cons. Let's go to the next slide. So the pros and cons for Montecito joining Carpinteria. The pros are that there'd be improved communication, more direct communication, not having to work through a larger system such as the Santa Barbara Public Library. Geographic proximity to the population in Carpinteria. I know you have the highway dividing you there, but basically it's a little closer in geography, less bureaucracy. Shared staffing could be used to help accommodate, when people are out sick or on vacation, sharing of staff and sharing of some of the programming that would be go on as well. And because Carpinteria is a member of the Black Gold Cooperative Library System, they would benefit from that as well. The cons are, that Montecito has not been able to put together a dedicated revenue stream that would be from public funding. They do provide $125,000 a year from donated income, but that necessarily may not last forever, and it's work for them, of course, to raise money privately. Limited tax support, no existing library district to work with as part of its home, and the preparation and receptivity by Carpinteria, at least the preparation, I've mentioned in the report that I wrote that even though you have a little over 2 years under your belt operating as an independent library, it's my opinion that there's still work to be done for the library to continue, for the library to coalesce in its own strength and operations and identity. I have some recommendations for Montecito on the next slide. And basically they are that they needed to develop a stronger case as to why they need to separate from the Santa Barbara Public Library. I don't think that there's a case that's been made strong enough other than some of the reasons they've been not included in a lot of the conversations for administrative decisions coming out of Santa Barbara and other points that were written in the report. I also recommend that they continue to work with Santa Barbara for enhanced service and programming support. And their participation as part of the advisory committee should continue, and that they consider discussions with Santa Barbara to see whether or not the use of their donation could be more supportive for library enhancements. And they could possibly look at other options for forming a special district in the future. So the bottom line on the next slide is that Carpinteria has been successful in its governance transition. At this time, library users in Montecito are best served by remaining a branch of the Santa Barbara Public Library. That in part has to do with the changes in administration. I think there's been based on the conversations I've had with people in Santa Barbara as well as in Montecito, the communications has been opened quite a bit. So there's a more receptive view from administration there in Santa Barbara. Carpinteria Community Library, as I just mentioned, needs more time to establish itself operationally before it can entertain the option. So I would not recommend that there would be a rush to bring Montecito into the Carpinteria Zone 5 as a branch of the system. And that, with all the studies that have gone on for the last almost 10 years, that Board of Supervisors have enough information now that they could actually put a vote out for public support to see if there's enough library support for the creation of a library finance JPA. That could be one way, to deal with some of the service and finance inequities. So that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. So one thing I wasn't sure from the staff report was, and this might be for Martin, is what is the county's feedback on the concept of Montecito splitting off and either joining Carpinteria or being an independent library of its own? I think you're muted.
I did not speak directly with the county administrator about that. I did speak with the library administration. They would like to see Carpinteria continue. Whether or not the county of Santa Barbara would like to see that, I think that's something I don't know the answer to.
Okay, and then just a quick follow-up question is, so you mentioned in your recommendations for Montecito to have stronger arguments for separation. In the context of the way that Carpinteria is separated, what would those arguments look like?
Well, I think it's basically making a case for why they would want to be separate. Some of the things that I think happened for Carpinteria could potentially be part of their argument, such as local control, greater local control. The other part would be a stronger local identity, which would give them a little bit more of a Montecito-centric, if you will, community orientation. The other would be the benefit of rejoining the Black Gold system. As you know, right now they're not members because of Santa Barbara withdrew from Black Gold. So the sharing of resources and the delivery system and the shared catalog, they would get that back. And I think if they were able to be part of, or to withdraw, they would be able to have, well, basically just a stronger local voice.
Great. And then my last question is, I don't know if we have anyone here from the Friends of the Montecito Library, but I'd be curious to know what their response is to the recommendations or to what their perspective is on next steps for themselves that in terms of their private fundraising and what their needs are too. So, thank you.
If I may, thank you for your presentation. Did you do it? So I believe Carpinteria, of course, was the last one to kind of create its own zone, but prior to Carpinteria was Goleta. And Goleta, my understanding, kind of followed a similar trajectory where, I don't know, maybe they became their own zone, and then a year or two later, they acquired or took ownership of an additional library. Was there any comparison in terms of like where Carpinteria and Montecito are currently and how, you know, Goleta's success has been, if it has been successful or whatnot?
I didn't do an update on Goleta, but I do remember speaking at the time in 2020 and 21 with the then Goleta library director, and the reasons that they decided to leave was for their greater independence and greater local community identity. One of the things I noticed recently was that they were the recipient of a large grant from the state library to do a major addition to their library. Again, I think that, you know, if you have a local identity, it's easier for you to make your case rather than going through a larger structure. I mean, I've worked in some large library systems. I mean, I was the director of the Los Angeles Public Library with 74 branches, and, you know, that's a different animal. No branch at that point could kind of go out and, you know, ask for a separate grant. They would have to go through their you know, the library's administration to be able to do that. In this case, it looked like Goleta was successful in getting that, making their case as an independent library rather than having to go through the Santa Barbara Public Library. That's speculation on my part, but I think that there's you know, the ability to create your own identity and image and local reinforcement with friends of the libraries and fundraising, et cetera, goes a long way.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, real quick, Mr. Gomez, I see you on the PowerPoint, you have the pros and cons of Montecito joining Carpinteria, but I don't see it going the other way, where the pros and cons are for Carpinteria with Montecito joining us. And based on the pros and cons, it looks like it's somewhat, I would say, a little bit lopsided towards favoring Montecito over Carpinteria. Could you maybe give me a little help with that?
Yeah, the objectives on the study were different for Carpinteria than they were for Montecito. For Montecito, the request was give us the pros and cons of us joining. And the purpose of the study for Carpinteria was tell us what's happened. How have we done in terms of our transition? So a little different. That's why you didn't get any pros and cons out of that. The closest I came, I guess, thinking about how the two might intersect is just the idea that Carpinteria has done a really great job of kind of transitioning, but they're still kind of getting they're beyond being toddlers. They're walking now, and they're on their way to becoming adolescents. And in that process, I think there's an opportunity for them to kind of create their strategic plan, their service plan that best fits Carpinteria. So there's a little bit of a relationship there, but it's really more about how are we doing, how's Carpinteria doing, how's the library doing, and what might come next for them.
Sounds good. Thank you. That does answer most of my questions. I do see personally that I agree with you. Carpinteria, we've moved a long way. We're moving along quickly and doing a great job thanks to the leadership of the library in Carpinteria. The con, in my opinion, is that if we were to bring somebody else in, Montecito specific, it may set us back a little bit more. We would then have to diversify out our leadership, may run into some issues. And if I'm looking at it from the viewpoint of this city council, we should be more interested in what's happening in Carpinteria, so a little more control.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that the folks in in Montecito, would like to keep the conversation going. There's things change over time, and it could be that at some point there is a whole change in the county library structure that might give them an opportunity for having a greater voice, and/or there could be a change in the situation in Carpinteria where there's a great opportunity and rationale for them to join Carpinteria as one of the branches for the city.
Did you also do a feasibility based on the attendance? How many people are using the Montecito Library versus those in Carpinteria?
I did get some statistics from the both Carpinteria and Montecito. Because Montecito's open fewer days, the attendance was less, and the programming that they used to do before COVID was higher, and so there was more people coming into the library. The other complication for Montecito has been that they have these counters, where people they pass through the gate and it tells how many they were broken. So the statistics were not accurate. My conversation and looking at statistics for Carpinteria with your city librarian, Ms. Thomas, showed that there was an increase in programming and therefore an increase in registered borrowers for library cards. So the more programming, begets more registration and interest. More registration begets more circulation, etc. So you guys in Carpinteria are doing a very good job of bringing in more interested library users, increasing circulation. Montecito seems to have kind of held its own, not increased significantly than pre-COVID numbers.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be one number I'd be interested in keeping an eye on as we consider potentially merging. Those are my comments. Thank you.
I have a question for staff.
Yep.
That's okay. For Jody, our librarian, in terms of Mr. Gomez's recommendations or conclusions for the city of Carpinteria and operationalizing itself a little bit more, do we have a strategic plan in place? I don't believe we do, but is that something that is on the docket? Is that something that the library commission or committee wants to do moving forward?
Do you want to talk? The answer is yes and yes. And Glenn Birdwell, who's the head of our Library Advisory Commission, has some things to say about that.
Thank you.
Just a few things. The Library Advisory Commission met this afternoon, and we had an opportunity to discuss this report. Basically, we do agree with the conclusions that it's really not feasible to join with Montecito at this time, but it is something that we definitely want to keep on the table. And to your question about strategic plan, that is one of the things that we do want to focus on right now, is for the city to support the continuing success of the library, and we are anxious to get a strategic plan in place as soon as possible and find out from the community members what they want from the library. So, thank you.
All right. Well, it sounds like local identity and funding issues are strong here.
If I may, the president of the Friends of the Montecito Library is here as well.
Okay.
Also, our Friends president is here. I don't know who wants, if you want to hear Councilman Solorzano mention the Friends for Montecito.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Pat Saley, president of the Friends of the Montecito Library. I'm also the first district representative on the Library Advisory Committee, have been so for probably 7 years. I've been on this board 10 or 11, so I've been through all those studies Martine went through. I served on the County Library Advisory Committee's ad hoc committee, and we met with a trained facilitator over 3-year period, something like that, and recommended a lot of changes, many of which the board of supervisors adopted with the theory, sort of the rising tide floats all boats. There are 14 libraries in the county. 5 are in unincorporated areas, Montecito, Cuyama, Vandenberg Village, Orchid, Los Alamos. Those libraries really struggle because they don't have a city. And the Board of Soups has allocated money and put more money aside, but the next step of seriously considering a joint powers agreement or something, as Martine talked about, that has yet to happen. But I'm speaking for myself because our board did not have the chance to meet, but we've had many conversations about this, and I think it's safe to say we are pretty unanimous. There are 2 other board members here if you'd like to hear from them. First off, I think you should be very proud of yourselves, what you've done in 2 years, because the life and vibrancy at the Carp Library is really to be commended. Regarding this study, there are really 4 reasons that Montecito would like to join Carp, and the study touched on, could we go alone and become a Zone 6? That hasn't really been studied in much detail, but 4 reasons. First, as Martine pointed out, our budgets have gone up and up and up as our programming has gone down and down and down, diminishing returns. And COVID messed everybody up, as you know, but we are still working with the county. The ad hoc committee has been disbanded, but a lot of good work was done there. The county's library advisory committee is talking about this stuff all the time. But funding for a library branch in an unincorporated area is a challenge. No getting around it. Montecito is open 5 days a week now, and that is working. We would like to maintain that. Once you go down to 4, people tend to stop coming because they think the library's not open. We want to bring back the really vibrant programming we used to have pre-COVID, and it was a hopping place. There were people there all the time. Jody was the librarian there for 2 or 3 years, I think, and she had the same kind of programming you have down here, and it was wonderful. We really want to get back to that if we can. For us, as Martine said, we would like to, the Friends of the Montecito Library, but the community, have more input and transparency as to how the library is run and the kinds of programming and all the benefits that you have realized have been discussed. And then we'd get to be part of Black Gold again, which is really wonderful. Personally, I joined the Goleta Library that lets me have access to it, but we'd like to serve our patrons with that program. The Friends of the Montecito Library has a small but very committed and talented board, and we managed to raise on the order of $125,000. Every year we have a corpus invested about $1.5 million, but we don't want to spend that down. You know, we need that money. Bottom line, we do hope that the door would be left open to help us figure out, us collectively, the South Coast, what is the best for CARP, the best for Montecito. And we will continue working with the county and the Library Advisory Committee to see if there isn't like a joint powers agreement or something like that, and or a tax measure. And I know people feel they're taxed plenty, but it really isn't fair that these 5 libraries are so behind the 8 ball, and we are doing everything we can to bring them back. Because there's so much love of libraries and all those programs in Montecito as there is here, but it's a difficult issue, and we recognize that. We just want you to keep an open mind. Let's see what happens at the county level 2-3 years from now. Talk about it again. I mean, we don't want to just kick the can down the road, but there are some things that need to be figured out first. Happy to answer any questions, or if you'd like to hear from other board members, I'm sure they'd be happy to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anything further unless you have more questions.
Okay. Any more questions? I guess we got it. Thank you. Up. I don't have a slip. Who's
Can I retract what I said about nothing further?
Pardon me?
Well, I have one more thing I wanted to add, and that was to answer Councilmember Alarcon's comment about Buellton and Solvang and joining Goleta. It was 1 year after Goleta left Santa Barbara Public. Solvang and Buellton are cities, and so they did have funding. That's the difference between unincorporated Montecito.
All right. Fred Shaw. Welcome, Fred.
Good evening, council, staff. Martine, good to see you again. Anyway, my question is real simple, and Martine maybe has some input on that. It would be more to Pat Saley, and that is, if Proposition 5 passes this November in the election, it will change how many votes you need to get a tax passed. And I'm wondering if it's close enough in Montecito to where they can't meet the 2/3 majority they need now, if they'd be able to meet the 50% plus 1 to be able to help fund their library, if they could do a parcel tax or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. And
If I may?
yes, please.
Yeah, I looked at the study that was done by FM3, which is a polling firm that was contracted to do the voter and tax tolerance by the Board of Supervisors. And there were several iterations, if it was this but not that. And overall, I do believe that there was sufficient, even with the parcel tax, We had met over the 51 threshold. And it was like, I'm not going to quote it because I don't want to say the wrong number, but it was close to 60 in terms of the support. Again, that was a snapshot in time. That's probably over a year now since that's been done. Maybe not, but so, the question is whether or not it would be supported. Those numbers, in my mind, would have to be freshened up. The language would have to be a little different, but it may have enough at that time, point in time, it may have had enough to pass the 50.1.
Mr. Mayor, may I
Yeah.
say a couple things? My kids went to Cold Spring School, and I was on the board, and we passed a bond in the days of 2/3 vote, and it was a Herculean effort. Well, you did Measure X, so you understand. Takes a lot of effort. My understanding was Prop 5 was 55%, and I don't know, I don't profess to, but if it is 50% plus one, and if it passes, I think we would take a long, hard look at that. The Montecito Fire Protection District is quite large. It doesn't take in Summerlin, and right now Summerlin is in Zone 1. But having a predetermined district really helps if you don't have to do all that. But I think I can speak for my board that we would think about it long and hard. And, the library is very loved, and it's all about education, and you did it yourselves with Measure X, so I think you know what I'm talking about. I just can't commit on anyone's part. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabby Edwards, please. Hi, Gabby.
Mayor and City Council and staff, I have to admit that listening to what Montecito is going through, I got a knot in my stomach remembering all of those years, and some of you do remember them, when we and Goleta and Solvang and Buellton, we just needed transparency about the cost, and we weren't getting it. And thanks to the City Council and the staff deciding upon the proposed Measure X, everything changed, as you know. I mean, it's just remarkable what has happened to our library. So I'm always saying thank you, but thanks again for that. I do want to remind you that almost everybody who served on the Measure X campaign was a library lover. We kept thinking those people who wanted, better roads and fields and things were going to join, and no, it was library lovers. So, I remind you occasionally about that. I want to thank Martine, who helped us, took such an interest. Obviously, with his background, we were small potatoes, but he and Susan took such an interest in our community and our wish for a library, and gave us really useful advice, which served us well in every step of the way. So thanks, Martine. And also a shout out to Pat Saley, whom I've known for many years as head of the Montecito Friends of the Library. Pat is as concerned about all of those unincorporated areas as well as Montecito. I mean, she really cares about all the libraries in the county and has, just gone out of her way to make a difference in the county libraries. So I thank her for all of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Gabby. All right. Anybody else like to speak? Anybody on Zoom, Brian?
Mayor, we have no Zoom speakers.
All right, thank you, Brian. All right, we're going to go to the city manager's report, please.
Move to receive and file the presentation.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0, Brian.
Okay. Council, community members, for For those interested, Dodger fans like myself, last I heard it's 3-0. So that's probably the most interesting thing you'll hear me say. I wanted to give a quick update on the city manager's report. Again, these are items that maybe don't rise to the level of discussion topics, but if there is any interest, we can certainly bring those back. I don't touch on every item in the city manager's report. Happy to take questions on any, but encourage community members to review that whole memo. So first, just to give a quick updates on recruitments, we are in the process of recruiting for a building official full-time, and that deadline to apply is November 24th. We have a maintenance worker, 2 part-time positions, and we're awaiting candidate acceptance. We have a management assistant position full-time. We received 44 applications, which was really good, and our tentative interview date is October 30th. We have parks and facility attendant part-time position, and we're pending a selection after interviews there. We have a program manager position in our Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department with a deadline to apply of November 7th, and a recreation leader part-time position that is pending selection. Or actually, I think they actually made that selection, and so I'm going through that process, and we'll let you know as soon as that's completed. We had received several complaints regarding trash during the Avocado Festival, but I think somewhat related or unrelated, and this was specifically at the beach ends of Ash, Holly, and Elm. We had large trash bins there, and my understanding from talking to my predecessor is the original intent of those were to be out during the heavy seasons, summer seasons, and spring break and things like that when there was a lot of traffic at the beach to handle some of the waste there, and then they were to be brought back in. At some point in time, that stopped happening, and they were left out year-round and became a magnet for illegal dumping. The complaints that we received were not all single. You know, some of the complaints were from nearby neighbors, some of the complaints were from dog walkers, some from the general public, and so not all of them had the exact same argument, but we did look at that. And I have some pictures, and actually, would you mind pulling those up while I get a chance? And then regarding, the Avocado Festival, just because I mentioned them, I just wanted to let everybody know they actually did have community volunteers and a contract with the janitorial company that went around and cleaned outside the footprint each day. And so we did an inspection the Monday after the event and saw no trash. So I just want to make sure I say, even though the complaints came during the Avocado Festival, their team did an excellent job of cleaning up after. And then so in terms of what we did, we did say that we want to have these trash bins out during heavy times of the year. And so we acknowledged that perhaps those trash bins could have been left out through the Avocado Festival. And so we will look to remedy that next year. We do have permanent trash cans that we purchased for all 3 of those ends. The one at, and that was before we received the complaints, we just hadn't got around to installing them. And so we do have the one at Ash is installed, and the trash cans at Holly and Elm are scheduled to be installed, but we have carts out there for the time being. So that's what's going on there. And then we're going to be working with E.J. Harrison, HDL, and a Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office around the illegal dumping issue, which, again, we're going to try to handle separately from some of the dog walkers who were just concerned about not having a place to put the dog waste. So, again, it's a dynamic issue. I received these pictures because I got some questions about what do we mean by illegal dumping. So this actually isn't at a beach end. This is just some pictures when I asked. This is, I believe, Carp Ave near the bike path, and just 4 trash bags there. This is, I think this may be Holly, and I can zoom in a little bit there. I can't tell you what's in there, but it wasn't good for sure. Let's see. This is Ash, I believe. and there was a storage bin with trash left there. And these are just recently. When we had the trash bins, there would be large amounts. This is with the carts. And then this was the new trash can that was just installed at Ash, and this was 2 days after, 2 weekdays. So this was a Tuesday and a Wednesday after installation, and by Thursday the trash can was complete, and there was garbage on the side. So this isn't heavy, but when you consider it's just 2 weekdays after installation, it was definitely more. And then so some of the things we've been looking into is active trash accounts, overlaying those with short-term rental accounts and making sure that we don't have any local short-term rentals that don't actually have trash service. And those are some of the things that we're looking into to address some of the illegal dumping. But I thought I'd share some pictures of some of the stuff that's going on. If anybody sees this, we encourage them to make a report, and also you can use our service request portal or our city app. Anytime you see illegal dumping, you can take a picture, and through the app it actually does geolocation services, and so it will tell us exactly where it is to go pick it up without having to go through all the details of explaining where you saw it.
Mayor Clark, may I ask a quick question? Yep. Just while the pictures were up, I did want to follow up since I appreciate you bringing those up. I had asked about the question about what type of illegal dumping was going on, because I know a lot of the complaints have been from residents and visitors in the beach area, which is in District 1, which I represent. So I think it's really important for people to understand that it's not that that the trash cans are just getting full with dog bags of waste or beachgoer trash. It really is, people are dumping things like cans of paint and like pieces of furniture and things like that. So I want the public to know that it isn't a case of the city not wanting to collect trash there or not wanting to have trash receptacles there, but there are some folks who are misusing them. And so I appreciate that the city's trying to find ways to work with that, but I think it's important to show what we're talking about when we're talking about illegal dumping, especially for the beach neighborhood residents who have complained about this issue.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. And it reminded me when speaking to former city manager Dave Derflinger, one of the complaints had mentioned that we had removed 2/3 of the trash cans on Linden, which I wasn't aware of and hadn't been done during my tenure here. And so in talking to Dave, I found out that did happen several years ago, and the reason was illegal dumping back then. And that was from nearby neighbors that were going out and using the trash cans. And so that was done, but it was several years ago and not recently. Moving on.
I'm sorry. Sure. A question on that. So I know you're working with several, the sheriff's department and whatnot, but will our code enforcement officer be going out and observing these areas in particular? On an ongoing basis, or what's the plan to ensure that we're able to, clean this up if continued illegal dumping occurs?
Thank you, Councilmember Alarcon. That's a good question. One of the things is we actually have pictures. So EJ Harrison, when they go to pick up the bins, I didn't know this, but they actually have a camera that films every trash can and takes pictures. And so we actually have pictures of the illegal dumping from all of the trash bins. So in terms of reporting, EJ Harrison has been good at reporting that to Aaron Maker. And then she relays that. She's in the Public Works Department for our staff to go out there and clean that up. In terms of code compliance, they can certainly pay attention. Of course, it's very difficult to catch people when this is going on. But in terms of reporting it and getting it handled, we're actually doing that in coordination with E.J. Harrison and Sons. And then also, related to trash, we'd received a public comment last week about the east end of Carp Ave and also about encampments and a number of beer cans. And so relayed that to our chief, and the chief has been going out there as well as our Public Works Department and doing cleanups. I did reach out to the commenter and provide them with information on how to download our app, and they're actually actively using that to report trash that they see now, and they're a group of volunteers who are doing that. And so yesterday morning, I received a message from that public commenter saying thumbs up, and please send a thank you to our police chief and our Public Works team. So that has been responded to. Just really quick about Monday, November 11th, and hours for Parks, Recreation, and Community Services programs. So the library will be open that day, and they're going to be doing a pajama day. Programming will include a theme story time, hot chocolate, popcorn, and an afternoon movie, along with board games, crafts, and other fun surprises for participants. Age Well programming will not be open, nor will the community pool. So library, yes. Pool, Age Well, no. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Community Development Director, Nick Bobroff, to touch on a few items that are community development related.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Mayor Clark and council members. I wanted to primarily highlight just a couple of items that are coming up on this coming Monday's Planning Commission agenda. So this is Monday, November 4th. The first item that the Planning Commission will be considering is a 6-month status report on the Monte Vista Dog Park pilot program. This is a pilot off-leash dog park that was granted a 1-year temporary use permit back in November of last year by the Planning Commission, and it opened for public use in April of this year. At the time, citing concerns from some of the neighbors who came out and spoke about, the dog park and the potential for noise impacts or parking impacts around that neighborhood, the commission agreed to the approval of the temporary use permit, but conditioned that the permit come back to the commission after 6 months to report on how the pilot program is going. And this would give the commission a chance to receive a report on compliance with the conditions of approval, hear again from neighbors on the benefits or drawbacks of this pilot program, and if necessary, it would also give the Planning Commission the option to amend project conditions to address any kind of nuisance impacts that are ongoing. So the staff report for this item will be up on our city website later this week. If it's targeting to get it up there tomorrow, but if not, it'll be up there by Thursday at the absolute latest. Also on Monday, the Planning Commission will be considering a trio of proposed ordinances which collectively will implement the necessary rezones to meet the city's Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, as part of the city's adopted housing element. So there's 3 ordinances here that make up this implementation package. The first ordinance would establish a new mixed-use zoning district that would allow for multifamily residential and mixed-use developments with residential densities between 20 units per acre minimum up to 25 units per acre maximum. The second ordinance would adopt new objective design standards which would apply to projects in that mixed-use zone district. And then the third ordinance would rezone a minimum of 17 acres of existing commercially zoned or research park zone properties to the new mixed-use zoning designation. And so as part of that package, staff has selected from our candidate rezone sites that were identified in the housing element, 17 acres that we feel makes the most sense as kind of a first step towards meeting our RHNA shortfall. The Planning Commission will have their opportunity to add sites to that list or swap out sites if they think there's other sites in the candidate inventory that might make a better fit. And ultimately, the Planning Commission is tasked with providing a recommendation to the City Council, at which point we'll bring those ordinances to your council hopefully later this year for action. And then finally, I wanted to note that after 8 years of service with the City of Carpinteria, our Chief Building Inspector and Plans Examiner, Dan Chepley, has announced that he has accepted the position of Chief Building Official with Santa Cruz County. So this is a great career advancement opportunity for Dan, although we're very sad to see him go. His last day with the city will be this Friday, November 1st. And knowing that he provides a critical function for the city and a critical service to the community, we are working with our existing contract plan check and inspection providers to augment some of the services they already provide for us and to fill in the gaps in that while we're doing our recruitment effort to bring on a new full-time inspector and plan checker. And with that, we wish Dan the best of luck in his new endeavor.
Yeah, question.
Yeah, real quick, Nick, I do have one question for you. With the rezoning, looking at the RENA numbers on that one, have you targeted specifically rezoning, or are we shooting in for the number, the actual number itself?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Nomura, we're doing a little bit of both. So we have a RENA number of just over 900 units that we have to target. And what the state allows us to do is to first subtract from that 900 units any projects that are currently pending or that have been already approved but not yet built. So we get to take that off the top right away. We then also get to subtract out of that number any existing capacity on residentially zoned properties. So we went around and did an inventory of the larger properties in the city that currently can accommodate residential and tried to calculate what we think the reasonable capacity is of those properties. And that left us with a shortfall of, I want to say it was around 290 units. And that's then that shortfall that we have to address through rezoning, because that's the only tool that's left available to us, is to create new capacity effectively.
Were the ADUs have any benefit to us on that one, the ones that we had?
They are. You know, we're actually, so at the time that we did the housing element, we were just getting going with our ADUs, and so we didn't have much in the way of a production record to rely upon. And so in order to get HCD's blessing, we had to come up with, you know, kind of more of a theoretical production rate of what we thought was reasonable. What we ended up settling on, I think at the time, was anticipating an average of 20 ADUs per year for the first couple of years, and then it's settling down to maybe it was 12 or 14 ADUs per year. I'd say so far we're well outperforming that number, and we get to still take credit for all those units that are built, but we are starting to see a little bit of a slowdown in the number of ADU applications. So it's just going to be a matter of seeing, you know, do we slow down to that 12 or 14 units that we estimate, or do we still continue to outperform our projections?
Thank you. Good job there, Nick.
All right, is that it? All right, thank you. We'll take public.
Can I actually say one quick thing?
Sure, sure.
I did want to point out something from the report that I thought was really great. So Age Well is going to now be offering Loteria sessions, right? So it sounds like those are going to be conducted in Spanish, and they're going to meet Mondays at 10 a.m., I guess at the library probably, or the multi-purpose room there. I just think that that's great that Age Well is trying to do some Spanish-speaking programming, and so I thank Jody and the library for, and Age Well, our Age Well staff for advocating for that.
Great. Okay, we'll open the public comment period. Anybody have any comments on the city manager's report? All right, seeing none, how about on Zoom, Brian?
Mayor, we have no Zoom speakers.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, now we'll go to public comment on matters not on the agenda. So, but still within the purview of the city council, just not on our agenda for tonight. And we have two speaker slips. First one is from Eileen Markison. Welcome, Eileen.
Hello, council members, staff. Go Dodgers. Go LA. LA, right? I'm here to talk about a promotional event that was staged at Island Brewing Company over the weekend of the California Avocado Festival. That would be October 4th, 5th, and 6th. Again, we've been residents for close to 20 years. We've been to Avocado Fest most of those 20 years. It was never as loud as it was this year. There were, I believe, 2 days of, I'm sorry, it was 15 hours of live music over 3 days. The stage was elevated and amps were directed to the beach neighborhood. We've been involved in the last 12 months bringing our issues with the loud music that we can hear and record inside our home. There was one condition that was saved on March 25th, and that was that bands were going to be orienting their stage and their amps not to the closest sensitive receptors. At this promotional event, stage and amps directed right to the beach neighborhood, and it's never been louder. We took a meeting with David Hernandez and Nick Bobroff to do a post-mortem, and apparently our household was not the only household that made the complaint. And I'm going to paraphrase, but if I recall correctly, David Hernandez, maybe it was Nick, told us that some of the comments to the complaints said as much. It was never louder than it was this Oktoberfest. IBC is piggybacking on the Avocado Festival. They're not sponsors. I think next year, please ask anybody who wants to piggyback on this. They've got to follow the rules of the entertainment license, the one condition that's left. It's pretty toothless as it stands, but the one condition, orient the stage away from the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And the next one is from Annie Sly. Welcome, Annie.
Good evening. I'm Annie Sly. I would like to comment on the Surfliner Inn project. I read in the Coastal View that the Thyma Group has exited the project. I'm wondering about possible ramifications of this. The ENA, the exclusive negotiation agreement, was signed by the Thyma Development Group. So I'm wondering if there are any legal issues that need to be addressed related to this. The Thyma Group was vetted by the city, but have the remaining partners been vetted? Because the remaining partners are still moving forward. Also, the Kaiser Marston Associates that completed the hotel financial analysis and hotel market conditions report, those reports are almost 10 years old. The Coastal View article also mentioned the 1% for Carp pledge, and I don't think that this was taken into account in the financial analysis. Just some food for thought. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Annie. All right, anybody else? The last speaker slips I have. And seeing none, anybody on Zoom, Brian?
Mayor, we have no Zoom speakers.
Thank you, Brian. All right, we will bring it back for the consent calendar.
All right, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held October 14, 2024, and receive and file the expenditures for the period beginning October 7, 2024, and ending October 18, 2024, and receive and file the reports of contracts executed by the city manager for the period of August 6, 2024 through October 7, 2024, and receive and file the monthly treasurer's report on compliance with statement of safekeeping and investment of public funds for September 2024, and receive and file the quarterly review of the Pension Stabilization Trust, and adopt resolution number 6345, receiving and filing the annual city investment policy.
I'll second that.
Mayor, if we could receive public
Yeah, I
comment
was
before
going to do
taking a
that
vote. Okay.
after. I don't know when to take public comment on all these things, and I thought, well, we'll get a motion in a second and then do it. I mean, I could have done it before, but I don't know. I guess I just saw the comment, but take public comment. My agenda here. So we have a motion and a second, and before we take a vote, we'll open the public comment period and see if anybody would like to make a comment on the consent calendar items just previously read by Councilmember Lee. All right, seeing none, anybody on Zoom? Brian?
Mayor, we have no raised hands.
All right, thank you, Brian. And we'll close public comment period, and we'll ask who's in favor of accepting the consent calendar. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And next up is the Code Compliance Quarterly Report from the third quarter of 2024 with our star, Dave Hernandez.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Council, public members. Okay, tonight we are going to do quarter 3 for 2024. And as a reminder, staffing includes 1 code compliance supervisor and 1 code compliance officer 2. Looks different than mine. I got an older version. There we go. And the best way to contact us, of course, is our service request portal, either through the city's website or downloaded onto your favorite device. And of course, you can reach us at our desk lines and through email. Code staff logged 152 total cases this quarter, as shown here. With abandoned vehicles leading the way, and I illustrated some typical vehicles that we abate off the city streets from quarter to quarter. And our animal violations were in at 12, as with graffiti this time. We did have a high count with bicycles on sidewalks. We've continued to monitor that through the summer months when it's a little bit more crowded. We have tourists in towns that may not know our code, and we're just busier in general. We expect that to go down during the winter months, so we'll focus our efforts elsewhere. For quarter 3, we had 31 customers fill out kind of our satisfaction results, and shown there on the screen. It's a great metric for us to where we can spend more time or increase our response time, whatnot. And how they're coming in, as you can see, most of the citizens are using our website, followed by our app, which is increasing. So a lot more people are downloading that app onto a smart device, which is great. They can use it in the field in real time, submit pictures, and get accurate information as it's happening to us. Of course, people are still calling us in by phone and email. And those complaints typically show up or I should say, those requests come in with abandoned vehicles leading the way. And this quarter was some noise complaints, and then followed by other requests that come in that are just skewed all over the place. Let's see. These are shown here on this slide is our code cases by type. These are just the code cases broken down And as you can see, let's see if I find my place here. Sorry. So during this quarter, staff did receive 44 noise complaints, 34 which were related to the live entertainment at Island Brewery. These complaints came in by 3 complaining parties at different addresses, all in that beach neighborhood. The other ones were related to dog barking noise complaints. Homeless contacts, although down, we still see a lot of homeless, although small, encampments in our creek systems. Definitely was brought to our attention in the last several weeks, and we do get vehicular camping as well as just setting up on city benches and bus benches. As I mentioned, the overall cases for homeless contacts are going down and showing, again, more concentrated in that creek area. So with the help of Public Works, sheriffs, and code, we're responding to calls out there, and we've had a slight increase in service requests coming from that area lately. Parking citations, 692 tickets issued for the quarter, with the highest being in the no parking areas that include red zones, street sweeping, posted signs for no parking, followed by 72 hours, or abandoned vehicles, and 2-hour parking, or time parking in general. And again, just a repeat of the 72 hours. These are for the quarter where we've responded to vehicles that were called in. Animal control. We had a high animal bite report this time. A lot of them came in as bites that we weren't able to follow up. They were like cat bites that were somebody petting cats in the public. And so it's an unusual high amount. We normally don't see that many bites in a typical quarter. But we had a lot of unidentified cat bites. Of course, dog leash contacts are always one of our high ones. And those are the typical animal service cases that we responded to throughout the city for the quarter. And that includes my report. I'll take any questions.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, given that the abandoned vehicle requests were one of the higher categories, can you talk about what that process is when code enforcement is called about an abandoned vehicle, and then what happens to that vehicle?
Yeah, so it's kind of misleading with abandonment. We don't have true abandonment vehicles, like people just leaving cars throughout the city. They are probably families with multiple people in the house with multiple vehicles that don't use them as much. And so what happens is we'll get a request in and we'll go out there and do an investigation, see if the vehicle is there. If so, we will, if the car has not been in the system before, we'll issue a warning educating the vehicle owner about our 72-hour code, give them a chance to relocate. We'll follow up in the 72-hour time period or shortly after and follow up. If the vehicle's still there, we'll ticket it, we'll remark it, and then it could lead up to a tow.
So the towing doesn't happen until a couple of different outreach efforts.
Yeah, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. You know, tows are expensive. It is a strain on people that get their vehicles towed. So yeah, we don't just typically tow right away.
Mm-hmm. And then just a piece of feedback, because I did receive 2 different people that I know told me that the app was working really well for them. One person said they had used the app to make a code compliance request and it was answered really quickly. And then another person just also said that they had a very positive experience. So I wanted to pass that along.
That's great, yes. And the surveys, the people that do the surveys, it is helpful for us. We do see them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, if I may. Thank you for your report. I do have a question on your homeless contact slide. There's the photo of an RV, which you referred to vehicular camping. It looks like at Memorial Park. Are we seeing more? Are we seeing more of this in town? And I'm assuming we made contact, so then we also asked them to move somewhere else. Or can you just share a little bit more of that process and if we're actually, as a city, seeing more and more individuals who are homeless in vehicles?
Yes, so we do see an increase during the summertime, pretty much with, all our kind of code cases, really. But we'll see an increase in RVs, whether they're just passing through and they just find the beach town, and so they'll stay a little bit longer. And so we'll make contact. If they do stick around, we do offer services, of course. We do have safe parking here, which is a great program. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow for RVs right now, so maybe we can work towards that goal of getting a spot for that. But we do still refer them to New Beginnings, as well as our weekly lunch program. We do let them know about other vehicle codes, so a vehicle of that size has a limited time to be on the street, so the 72-hour doesn't apply to them. It's really 1 hour. So a large vehicle like that really has to go into a campground or a private property situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And then one more question. Sure. This might be for the city manager. When are we expected to receive an update on the safe parking program?
Vice Mayor Alarcon, was there a specific piece of information interested about the program or just the program as a whole?
No, I think my understanding is that it was a pilot and then we were to get a report on its success.
Yeah, and what I do know and what I think Nick's going to talk about is we had a 2-year window, and it was from the point of the program starting, and we actually started in like June, but then the actual program didn't start till much later, and I'll let Nick tell a more precise version of that.
Thank you, Michael. Vice Mayor Alarcon. Michael's generally right with the sense that the program was authorized for a 2-year window, I think actually in maybe October, and then it didn't take effect until the following, March or April. And so we are working with New Beginnings to begin the dialogue with the anticipation of bringing something back to your council before that 2-year operational period expires to talk about renewing and expanding the program.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about the RVs and what New Beginnings has done in other communities, such as Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I can't speak about that too much off the top of my head, other than the prohibition on RVs is unique to the location where we run the program and some of the limitations that come with that location.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we'll open the public comment period. Anybody like to have a question or comment about the code compliance quarterly report? All right, anybody on Zoom, Brian?
We do, Mayor. We have Susan Allen. Susan, go ahead.
Thank you. And yes, it is Susan. I want to thank Dave and Henry for the great detailed and easy to read report. It was long but very interesting as to what's going on. Amazing to see of the 152 cases that 117 were through your service request program. So I guess that's really working well. And I want to, and I can't see you, Dave, but I want to make absolutely certain that you understand I'm in no way criticizing the work you do. It's absolutely amazing, but clearly more staffing is warranted. These two guys are working really hard, and you can see there's a lot of things expected of them, and there's a lot of issues. it's a small but mighty staff, and I do really appreciate their work. It would be really nice if the safe parking program could be expanded sooner rather than later. I've watched just by happening to pass by how those two officers deal with the homeless and general population, and they do an absolutely amazing job, and I do appreciate that. I do have one frustration, not criticizing you, Dave, but how to address ongoing issues. I mean, every day I could call in cars parked longer than 72 hours, shopping carts. And so I'm hoping maybe if there was more staff, that there was some way, once you got several reports on an area where there's always shopping carts, I didn't need, or somebody didn't need to keep calling you, that you could just check once a week or whatever and see. I just don't know how to deal with that. And I'm not criticizing, believe me. And one thing about code enforcement is they really are the face on the city. I know these guys. I see them out in public. Don't see other staff members out there. That's because the nature of their job. But, they really do represent the city, and they do, like I said, an amazing job, but they need help. And so here's my question. The third position for code compliance has been vacant for well over 2 years. I know I've asked, I think other people have, but can we have some explanation as to why that position has not been filled, when in the city manager's report today, there's lots of other positions being filled, and this was an existing position, and it seems like, you're putting an awful burden on two really incredible workers. So again, I'm very grateful to Dave and Henry. No way criticizing, but I guess I'll criticize council. They need help, and I think this is long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Susan. Anybody else, Brian?
And Mayor, that concludes Zoom comment.
Okay. We'll bring it back to the council, and we're going to go to item number 10.
Oh, I'll move to receive and file
Oh,
the
yeah,
third
yeah.
quarter
Thank you,
code
thank you,
compliance
thank you.
quarterly report.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 5-0, Brian. Thank you, Monica. All right, item number 10 is the first quarter department reports for fiscal year 2024 to 2025.
Council and community members, very excited to bring to you this very first quarter report for our fiscal year. I will note that it can get confusing. The quarterly report for code compliance is on a calendar year. This is on our fiscal year, so this is July, August, and September. I want to start by thanking all the staff that put the time and energy into this. This was a heavy lift and a huge change from what we've done in the past, and I have to say there wasn't, as a city manager, to a single bit of resistance. We're all excited to be tracking what we're doing more. Oftentimes you can get going, and you forget to tell people what you're doing, and those things, of course, are important as we look to pursue grants and various things. And so, again, I know it was a lot of work, but no resistance and just great effort from the team, and you'll get to hear from them later. little bit of the background. So on January 29th, we met for our annual work plan meeting number 1. That was a bit of a change from previous years where we had a single annual work plan meeting. At this meeting, it was led by a consultant that we brought in, Tripepi Smith, and we started off by, I thought I heard something. And that started at a higher level of talking about what the city council goals and priorities were. Those were just drafts at those point, and we came back on February 26th at annual work plan meeting number 2. And at that point, we approved those city council goals and priorities, and one of those was about transparency, public education, outreach, engagement, those sorts of things. And so a big part of that was adding in this idea of quarterly reports, where previously we'd only come back once a year after the year was over and told you what we did, is that we wanted to come back on a quarterly basis and keep you up to date and the community on the status of our various programs as we went throughout the year. And then, of course, those goals and objectives that we set were approved as part of our budget on June 24th. There are several components of the quarterly report. The first part is an executive summary, which is just a brief overview summarizing program accomplishments, challenges, and any significant changes during the quarter for the program. And then key highlights with notable milestones achieved, significant issues, and upcoming priorities. The thought was, and I should start by saying that this will be somewhat of a quarterly report, a living document, because we've already seen things that we've gone through the process on ways that we can improve this document for clarity and conciseness and all those things next time, simplification and flow. So look forward to any feedback that the council may have on that. But the idea is that the executive summary and the key highlights, if somebody didn't want to read through all the rest of it, that you could read that and get a good idea of what was going on in that program. You'll notice that some of that stuff is duplicated in the rest of the report, and that's the reason why, and we can look at ways to improve that next time. Then we have the status update. This is each one of the goals and actions taken, any challenges, and what's coming up next quarter to address those goals. Now, these goals are different from those that were set by the city council. These are department level goals, strategic goals we might call them, in order to advance city council's goals. And they also include other things that we might be working on, which could be state mandates or existing policies set by the council, and all of that is labeled right at the top of the status report. It also includes a financial summary. This is an overview of budget performance, any major expenditures, variances, was anything over or under what we thought it was going to be, and any financial concerns. And this is just to ensure transparency with our community and the council as well. Fortunately, for most of our programs, that financial summary is sparse because we haven't had any major issues. The next part is the community engagement and outreach part. This goes back to the goal that the council set and us looking at all of our programs and going, okay, how did we reach out to the community? What feedback did we receive, and what did we do with that feedback? And so I know for our team, there's a lot of things where we've had to start thinking differently about what we're doing and how we're planning things, because now that we're reporting on this is the change in the way that we think and do the things that we do. So again, some of that is not, that section doesn't have as much in it as we would like it to have, but it's something that we look on building on moving forward. And then a conclusion with the summary of overall program progress and an acknowledgement of contributions from other department staff, and then also our community stakeholders, because I think it was goal number 4, the council, to strengthen those collaborations with other organizations in the community, and so we want to acknowledge those. So I'm going to start by taking on some of these general government items, and then as things pass that are outside of my direct programming, I'll go ahead and pass those on. So first program is city administration. And the authority, again, is why are we doing this in the first place? So as you look at that, that's where the mandates might be listed, best practice might be listed. And in this case, the reason for pursuing this goal is because of City Council primary goal right there. And that was to enhance the public participation in the work plan development process. So that is on track. We've issued a request for proposal to a firm to lead us in that activity. This year, that will include a community-wide survey, 3 workshops, 1 in English, 1 in Spanish, 1 virtual, and then a public meeting, which will also be a council full-day retreat where you will be presented with that information. And so in addition to last year where we came and we had the public commenters that were here, this time I hope to have hundreds of survey data results to help inform those decisions. And the consultant firm selection is part of our next steps for Q2. We also have to assist the City Council to review and revise or develop a city vision. And it looks like I should have removed the background on those hands. But it's also city vision, mission, values for inclusion in the work plan. And again, there will be questions in that community survey that will help to inform the council on that. Now, that's going to take place in Q3 when we have the City Council retreat, and that's designed to be after the election and induction of the new council members. So we're hoping for that sometime in January and February. And then this authority, enhanced public outreach, again, goal number 1 was to enhance community awareness and knowledge of the city's budget and related activities. So again, on track, and some of the actions taken this quarter were to create a budget brief, which was just a short single page, folded in half to make 4 pages on some of the core parts of the budget. What we're looking forward to do next steps is to get that on the city website, and then sometime in Q3 start going out and making presentations to the public on things that are going on with our budget. At the Avocado Festival, I asked one person, I was trying to engage them about the budget, and I said, how much do you think, what do you think the city's budget is each year? What do we have to spend on various programs and services? And they said $1 million. And I said, oh, okay, so we have a lot of work to do informing the public on all the different things that we do. And she was very surprised to learn that we're spending $6 million on one single pavement project alone. And so making sure the public understands the state of the budget helps them to better understand things that come up, whether it's a measure on the ballot for TOT or different things that the council might be talking about. So look forward to doing that. Financial summary for the city administration program: no major expenditures, no variances, changes, or concerns. Community engagement was the Avocado Festival, and then just generally as I've been out in the public, I was at different things. I was at a host committee, thank you event, and everywhere I go, I bring up the idea of the community survey and the 3 workshops, and the positive feedback has been overwhelming for that. I want to thank Assistant City Manager Ryan Kintz, our former program manager Olivia Uribe Mutal, and then 2 trumpets represented by Leah Boyd for all their work within the city administration program. Speaking of Olivia, she was overseeing our emergency preparedness, and one of our challenges for this program moving forward is going to be filling that position vacancy. We're very fortunate to have a very talented, flexible, adaptable Aida Thaw, who stepped into that role to help us manage that. And so she will be available for any questions that you might have related to this program. Speaking of things that are not city council goals, the authority for a lot of the things that come through emergency preparedness are aligning with things like FEMA's whole community approach and Governor's Office of Emergency Services strategic plan. So that's going to be our guiding policy for a lot of these things. The department goal was to establish trust and build ongoing relationships with the community to increase awareness about disasters and how to be prepared during and after they occur. That program is on track. Some of the actions taken were a resiliency hub team that was put together that now meets on the third Tuesday of every month, and then also engaging with the County Office of Emergency Management, or OEM as it's also known, on the first Wednesday of each month. Those are two relationships that we have to maintain to be aware and in the know about all things emergency preparedness. And next steps for that goal is just to continue participating in those meetings, and of course a number of action items come out of each of those meetings. Following the same level of authority was to ensure residents are offered the tools and training to endure and respond to emergency events, and the city is working with LISTOS. Some of the actions taken were these coordinated meetings with partnering agencies. Kinderkirk, we had an annual presentation, out presentations in our participation in events at the mobile home parks, a health fair at Carp's Children Project, and then also there's some upcoming LISTOS training in October and November, and then a CERT refresher training, which we're planning on doing in collaboration with the Carp Summerlin Fire District on November 7th. So a lot of things are coming up to help keep our community informed on emergency preparedness. And it is on track. Next goal was to evaluate existing emergency plans and prioritize need and update those emergency plans. Again, this is on track. Some of the actions taken were coordinating staff training for the Emergencies Operations Center. So we had staff, I forget where they went today, it's the County Office of Emergency Management for Emergency Operations Center training. So that is ongoing. If you happen to try to come into City Hall this morning, it was like a ghost town at the front counter, because that's one of the things of being a small city and trying to participate in these trainings that only happen every so often, is you only get 2 or 3 at a time, or you have to, try to do a half and half. And then want to thank Brenda for holding down the fort today at the front counter. And so that talks about one of the challenges is being a small organization and finding time to take these different trainings. But thankfully, we've been committed to doing that. And next steps are we continue to track attendance and completion of the module, which are those training components of the EOC. And then, of course, to stay on new employees as we hire them to make sure that they stay up to date. And then also work with the emergency shelter operators to develop working relationships prior to disaster requests. And on track, we've coordinated meetings with the Carp Summerlin Fire District. We're establishing also a new emergency digital platform called Genesis, and we're working on logistics and coordination of the implementation on that new software. I've been part of those meetings, and right now we're in the process of creating response zones and messaging, and how each of these zones might be impacted by different things, whether it be a tsunami, earthquake, fire. So the first part of this new Genesis program is to create these zones, and then after that we'll start inputting all the different facilities that are in those zones that could be impacted in an emergency. So a lot of good work going on there. And then next steps is we're going to continue to meet with the Genesis consultants, Carp Summerlin Fire District, and the county. And then, of course, to keep sending reminders and assign new dates for training for new employees. I wanted to note some of the things that are not started. I don't know that many of our other departments will be talking about what's not started. That's in the program, and we're happy to answer questions. But we need to start an internal safety committee meetings, and these are some things, and you'll see the next steps are to be determined, and we're looking to fill that position vacancy and ensure that these goals that we've set for this year's annual work plan are completed. There are no major expenditures this quarter, variances, changes, or concerns, and community engagement has been through the trainings and events. They are offering program evaluations at the end of each session, and so far that feedback has been positive. And We want to give special thanks to our local partners and CERT volunteers that help strengthen our emergency resilience, and also to our interdepartmental collaborators such as Public Works and the Community Library that have helped logistically to put on some of these events. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our city clerk, Brian Barrett, to talk about boards, committees, and commissions.
Thank you, Michael. So under the Boards, Committees, and Commissions program, the department goal was to establish a formalized process for appointing members to city advisory groups. Next slide. So currently that's on track. Actions taken so far have completed the Council Advisory Group Handbook and Code of Conduct and developed standardized procedures for the appointment process. The next steps include meeting of the Ad Hoc Appointment Process Committee to review and get feedback, which actually this committee met last week and is set to meet tomorrow, to get feedback on the handbook. And also Council will adopt Council Advisory Group Handbook, Code of Conduct, and Appointment Process. We anticipate that going before your council perhaps at the next council meeting on November 12th. And then later on, promoting the new appointment process and beginning the biennial recruitment of all city advisory groups in December for council's appointment in January of next year. Financial summary for this goal, there are no major expenditures, variances, or changes or concerns. And as of yet, there is no community engagement, no feedback, and no acknowledgements. For the elections program, the department goal is to collaborate with the County Santa Barbara Elections Division to manage and oversee the November 5th, 2024 general municipal election on behalf of the city. This goal is on track. Actions taken so far include adopting resolutions consolidating the election and placing the TOT measure on the ballot, submitting consolidation services requests to the county elections, guiding council candidates through the nomination process, and processing documents related to the TOT measure. Next steps include certifying the election results and the reorganization of the city council, which will occur on December 9th. And major expenditures include incidental staff time, minimal elections consultant cost, and of course the cost to publish elections notices, no variances, and no changes or concerns. And for community engagement, it's just the regular public information content, social media, city website, and as well as the paper. And no feedback or acknowledgement. Oh, sorry. Acknowledgements would be the Santa Barbara County Elections Division. And that concludes general government section, I believe.
Yes, and I know the report is, I think, for general government, 52 pages. So, of course, we want to be respectful of our audience and condense that a little bit, but we're happy to take questions on any part of the report.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. But first, I want to say that I really appreciate the new reporting format for the work plan, and the fact that we're getting these quarterly updates is really helpful. So I appreciate the work that the city manager has put into that whole process.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, couple questions. So for emergency preparedness, can you talk a little bit about that community resilience hub? That's the one I know from the staff report. It's in collaboration with Girls Inc. But what is the status of that? What are the partners involved with that?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Slauson. I'm going to invite Aida Thaw up to help answer that question.
Thank you.
So yes, for the Resilient Hub, this is a collaboration that has been... Sorry about that. Good evening. Aida Thaw, Program Manager with the Government Department. The Resilience Hub has been a community initiative that has been created, and right now is being led by Girls Inc. They have offered to be one of our collaborations for emergency response in the city. And we are putting together a bunch of different groups that locally are serving the community. Is Santa Barbara County Office of Emergency Management, the Red Cross, Carpinteria Summerland Fire Protection District, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, and Community Environmental Council, along with the City of Carpinteria, obviously. So these are the groups that this year are going to be participating in the Resilience Hub Committee.
And then how frequently are they meeting or getting together?
We are just starting right now. We are doing monthly meetings. We're going to be collaborating and deciding what is the material that we want to create and cover for the first forum that is going to take place during the month of February. Girls Inc., Jamie Collins, the director, is leading this effort, and they are preparing a gala, a forum where all these groups are going to come together and help the community be more prepared for responses in case of an emergency.
Great. And this might be related, but what are the internal and external safety council meetings that were on one of the slides?
Yes. So those were two groups that used to meet before COVID in regular basis. The external group used to meet quarterly, and it was the sheriff's office, the fire department in Summerland, the city of Carpinteria, and then the Unified School District of Carpinteria. Dave Baker, he is the liaison with the fire department in Summerland, and he has been working, and we're going to try to bring them back to meet in regular basis. The internal safety committee would be just the representative of the different departments within the city, so we can just be prepared to do reenactments of when to activate the Emergency Operations Center.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. So those are my emergency preparedness questions. And then, so there was this wasn't in the slides, but this was in the staff report. There is a part in communication and community, and one of the goals was to provide the multilingual closed captioning on city broadcasted meetings. And from the staff report, it said that City Council, Planning Commission, Cox and TVSB need to meet with the city to schedule next steps. But I wanted to ask, where is that process, and what needs to happen next to get that going?
Yeah, Councilmember Solorzano, thank you for that question. So our budget originally accounted for moving to closed captioning, and the idea was that perhaps by reducing the cost of the live interpretation, that we could use that money to conduct outreach events into the community. That, of course, as you kind of mentioned, there was a little bit of some snags. Some of it had to do with, old equipment that we had. Some of it had to do with coordination through the various forms of media that we're using, whether it be through TV, uploading through Granicus, or through Zoom. And so we're currently, researching what some of our next best options would be, and then as we move forward, what we might want to do in terms of outreach in the community is something I look forward to bringing back to your council to discuss those in details. But yeah, it's basically been just issues with the equipment, some of the functionalities, and updating our own equipment internally.
Okay, that's good to know, because I'm excited for that as the process moves on. And then another slide, another one that wasn't on a slide, but that was in the report, was for racial equity and social justice. How can council be more involved with that, with the equity praxis work that's being done on that? Either how can we be kept more apprised of what's happening, or are there ways for us to engage more? Because I know that that's an important priority for the council too. And I know work is being done at the staff level, but I just wanted to see if there was any more information about that.
Yes, again, Councilmember Solorzano, a good question. That goes back to the thing of what I mentioned earlier. A lot of times we're doing things and we have to remember to stop and talk about what it is that we're doing. So we actually had just recently revised our timeline with equity praxis. Our last meeting was just a few weeks ago with the new chief, and filling him in on all of the things that we had talked to our previous chief about. In terms of updates for the council, so one of the things that potentially could be done as the Age Well program in senior services was a very high topic of interest to the council. We added it to the top of the city manager's report, and we provided regular updates on senior services. If the council desired, I could certainly add a section like that, an update on our program, or I could just add it to the other section down at the bottom, and just make sure that I report to the council on a biweekly or monthly basis on activity that's happening, because it is occurring.
Thank you. And then my last question is that, so I had attended the PIA Risk Management Forum with Mayor Clark and with Assistant City Manager Kintz. And one of the things that that the JPIA had mentioned was the importance of cities to have the codes of conduct for council meetings and for committee meetings and such. And so I wanted to know, is that the part that was included in the report about the boards and commissions, or would that be a separate code of conduct? Or and then what is the status on that one?
Yes, Councilmember Solorzano through the mayor. Great question. So the code of conduct that was developed for the boards, committees, and commissions is specific to the members that would be on the boards, committees, or commissions. But definitely as part of that process, it's a natural progression to develop a code of conduct for the public who would be attending those meetings. So that's definitely on our list and part of the next steps.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you very much. Those are my general government questions.
Anybody else? All right, I think we'll take about a 5-minute break right now before we continue. Thank you. back. City Council is reconvening from a break, and now we're going to continue with our
Do I do it right here?
agenda item, the quarterly department reports.
Ready? Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and the public. My name is Lisa Maldonado. I am the Administrative Service Director, and I'll be providing quarter one update for Administrative Services Department. My first department is the Financial Services. My first program, sorry, is Financial Management Services. The City Council goal is to take enhance public outreach, education, and transparency. The department goal, demonstrate compliance with best practices for budgeting and financial reporting. Current progress is on track. Actions taken this quarter. We submitted the fiscal year 2024-25 budget for the CSMFO Operating Budget Award. Next steps is to submit the fiscal year 2023-24 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The second goal in financial management services is to evaluate current revenue streams. Current progress is on track. Actions taken this quarter. Request for proposals and selection of consultants. Next steps is monitoring the Measure B, analyze proposed fees, assessments from consultants for the district and solid waste program. The next program, this program is Central Services. Our City Council primary goal is investment in a high-performance team. Our department goal was to update outdated city policies and provide staff with training on new policies. Current progress is on track. Actions taken this quarter, compile sample policies from other cities. We drafted a cash handling policy. Next steps are review cash handling policy, draft the travel policy, and draft a credit card policy. This is our Management Information Services program. Our City Council primary goal number 5, invest in a high-performance team. Our department goal was provide resources to all staff to accommodate remote work. Current progress is delayed. Actions taken this quarter. General government has drafted the remote work policy. Next steps is for general government to review the draft of the remote work policy. Pending on the policy is to order equipment, software needed to support the remote work. And then with that, I can take any questions for Administrative Services Department.
Yeah, just one quick question. In terms of the assessment district updates and the AB 939 fee updates, what does the timeline look like for that? Is that something where we would see those new figures like in next year's budget or the budget after that? Or what does that look like, knowing that you're still working with the consultant to do those studies and everything?
So we're Administrative Services right now. We're working with General Government. General Government is the lead on the assessment district. The timeline is, I believe, March. But I believe it's March of 2025, and depending on what happens with that timeline and the
Yes, Councilmember Solozano through the mayor. As Ms. Maldonado was mentioning, she's right. So we did select a consultant. We're in the process of just fine-tuning their proposal, making sure it fits within our budget and what we were looking for in terms of the scope of services. And then we plan to get under contract with them. Their work likely wouldn't start until February or March, based off of their timeline, but also based off of the timeline of this work effort. And then once that process starts, we go through the Proposition 218 processes, which can take about a month, month and a half, 2 months. And then everything will be in place for July 1st, so that hopefully we start collecting revenues for the assessment districts in AB 939 starting July 1st, 2025.
Great, thank you very much. That's exciting to hear that that process is moving forward. So appreciate the update.
Good evening again, Council. Nick Bobberoff here to tell you a little bit about what community development has been up to for Q1 of the current fiscal year. So overall, for the department, we are on track for nearly all of the goals that we've identified. I'm going to highlight a few here, and I'm happy to answer any questions about anything that's not covered in the presentation, but that's spelled out in the report itself. For the administration program, which oversees the department as a whole, our primary focus this year was on increasing staff capacity through trainings and education, through process improvements and ways to improve our efficiencies, and then also to secure some additional revenues to help support enhanced services. And across all three of those items, we are on track. All of our staff this year have attended already at least one training or conference. Part of this was done with the help of Mindy Fogg, who's our principal planner in our long-range planning division, who orchestrated and led a strength-finding exercise for our entire department that goes through and identifies each of our staff's top 5 strengths, and then also looks at, collectively as a team where our strengths lie across the board. And that was a really great exercise that was, I think, educational for all of us. We've also had a couple of our staff attend conferences already this year, and we've got a few more lined up for Q2 here coming up in the next month or so. We've also, just since the report was published, actually successfully now launched the Solar App Plus permit software. This is a state mandate, and it's an online permitting platform that's run through the state for rooftop solar permits. And the intention here is that it's a streamlined process whereby someone can apply for a building permit online. They get the permit plan checked very rapidly. They can pay for it online, and they get a permit issued on behalf of the city by this state-run program. And it's really helpful in terms of, one, taking a big workload off of our building and safety division's plate in terms of these rooftop solar permits that they no longer have to be reviewing individually and plan checking and issuing permits for. And it also, in some ways, helps paint a picture for what we're trying to achieve with our larger online permitting platform that we're trying to transition to. And so our big goal for CDD administration is to evaluate and select the permit platform that we want to transition to for next fiscal year. And so we've been focusing a lot of attention, primarily with Marisol Smith's help. She's our associate planner, to identify different software platforms, evaluate them, set up demos that a lot of our staff can attend, and asking questions and trying to narrow down the field here of which ones might be the best fit for us going forward. And so this last quarter, we evaluated another 2 softwares, and I think we probably have a couple more to go here before this year is done, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have our top 3 candidates narrowed down and be choosing one between them to move forward with. In terms of revenues, one thing just to highlight on here is that we did implement a new building permit technology surcharge. This is a 5% fee that's added on to all building permits that are issued, and those revenues are intended to help fund the new permit software. And so Q1 was the first quarter that we implemented this fee. We generated about $7,000 in revenue. And if that stays on track, we anticipate that this surcharge will pay for all or most of the recurring annual subscription cost of the new permit platform. And advanced planning has been awfully busy here this last year. I've kind of taken some liberty here in paraphrasing several goals into one overall goal of achieving meaningful progress on the advanced planning priority work plan items, which primarily fall into implementation of the housing element and making some progress on the general plan update. And again, advanced planning has been doing a remarkable job of keeping all of these efforts moving forward. So with respect to the housing element, the big push as of late has been getting the rezones ready for public hearings here in Q2. So that's the admin drafts of the 3 ordinances that I mentioned in the city manager's report, which will go to Planning Commission next week. As part of this, we did kind of redirect the focus of the downtown design overlay project, which is also listed in the work plan as something we were hoping to work on. And what we've done is we've taken some of the deliverables from that exercise and refocused them or repurposed them to be used as part of this housing element implementation for this new mixed-use zone district. This was, in staff's mind, this was the highest priority in terms of where we need to get objective design standards on the books to help us going forward. And it'll build a foundation upon which then down the road we can add to with additional standards for other parts of the city, including eventually the downtown core for our commercial area. We've also continued to make progress on updates to our density bonus ordinance and the ADU ordinance. We've also now completed administrative drafts of all of the updated general plan elements or chapters related to our general plan update. And the last 2 of those just went to our general plan update committee just last week, I think, so just outside of the end of Q1. That's a spoiler alert, I guess, for Q2. So we're making good progress there. We did budget $200,000 for that effort. It's reimbursed by a grant that we received. We're off to a little bit of a slow start on expending those funds, but I expect that will ramp up here throughout the rest of the year. We've been working a little bit more closely with the consultant team to keep them onto a timeline and a schedule. And as we get into later on here in Q2 and especially Q3, when the consultant team will be ramping up work on the environmental impact report, I expect we'll start billing a bit more heavily against that grant subsidized allocation. And then finally, we have also been engaged with the County of Santa Barbara on some of the Carpinteria Valley-wide zoning efforts that are of interest to the community, including the county's housing element implementation, the Baylord multifamily project, and then also a memorandum of agreement process that County LAFCO is trying to set up between the county and all of the individual jurisdictions in the county. And what this would do in our case is formalize sort of a communication process whereby the city and the county can meet and review pending project applications that may have an impact on the city. It just helps to, in our case, improve that dialogue and give us a chance to hopefully provide some early constructive feedback and steer projects in a path that aligns with our goals. Related to advanced planning is our housing program. The primary goals for this year were to seek opportunities to expand and support affordable housing, as well as help meet the housing needs for unhoused individuals. In terms of the affordable housing piece, the main emphasis that we've been doing right now is gathering information. So we've been attending conferences, attending some of the regional housing programs, including the Joint Task Force on Affordable Housing put on between the county and the individual jurisdiction cities. Really, and this gives us a chance to learn what other cities are doing to help facilitate and promote affordable housing. And our intention here is to come back to your council by the end of this year with a report on some of what we've learned, offer up a menu of some tools and ideas that we can consider implementing or pursuing here to help us meet our own affordable housing targets. On the homelessness piece, we've also been making some efforts here to get the ball rolling with Dignity Moves. Several of our planning and building staff had an opportunity in September to tour the Tiny Homes Village in downtown Santa Barbara, which really was instrumental in giving us a feel for what one of these projects actually looks like, what the space needs are, what the infrastructure needs are. And with that information, we've been able to come back here and help Dignity Moves staff identify possible sites where they could pursue such a project here and put them in touch with those property owners. So it's still a work in progress, but it feels like we've at least now are kind of on the same page and understand what Dignity Moves is looking for, and Dignity Moves understands, kind of what some of our concerns are. So hopefully this will bear some fruit later on this year. And we've also been working towards setting the stage for the renewal and expansion of the safe parking program with New Beginnings. In terms of the development review and building program, similar to CDD administration, the main emphasis here again has been on increasing staff capacity and making process improvements. One of the probably the two biggest goals here for this particular program were to improve our business licensing program and also to improve the efficiency of our building permit review process. And so we're making incremental steps on both of these. In terms of the business licensing program, we have completed the first step, which was to take another look at our applications themselves and try to clean those up and make them a little bit more intuitive, make sure that it's clear in terms of what types of information that we're asking for or that we need, and trying to help streamline kind of that application process for business license applicants. The next step there will be then working with our third-party license review company to implement some of these improvements on the back end there in terms of how they complete their workflow and their review. We've also brought on through one of our existing consultant contracts a part-time permit technician to help not only with a backlog of building permits that keeps building up, but also to help us manage this transition from sort of the paper version of dealing with building permits that we've historically done in anticipation of moving on to more of a electronic or virtual type of permitting arrangement. And Anne Marie is her name. Anne's been through this transition with past jurisdictions that she's worked for, and so she's really been great at helping provide some insight and helping us think of even some interim strategies to start to sort of triage our way towards a more electronic permitting system and getting away from doing everything by paper. So she's been a big help in that respect. In terms of code compliance here, the main goals for the code compliance program was to implement our multifamily smoking ordinance, including outreach for that, to undertake an entertainment licensing program, and then also to continue to ramp up the quality and thoroughness of our tracking and reporting of code compliance efforts. And so the big milestones here this quarter was to complete the adoption of the multifamily smoking regulations back in, I think it was July. And the next step there is to now ramp up the outreach component to educate both landlords and tenants of these multifamily smoking regulations before they go into effect next July. So we've got some lead time here, but we want to develop those outreach materials and start that effort. We've also acquired and completed the training on how to use a couple of decibel noise readers, and our code compliance staff has started to deploy those on weekend evenings over the course of the summer to capture readings on how some of our licensed entertainment venues are operating. And not so much from a compliance standpoint, it's more just an informational effort right now to kind of gain an understanding of what the lay of the land is in terms of noise levels measured from different locations around the downtown relative to these live entertainment venues. And our intention there is to bring that information back to your council sometime here later in Q2. And then, as we saw tonight, I've been working with our code compliance supervisor, David Hernandez, to continue to build on our tracking of our code compliance activities and improving the reporting of those going forward. And then finally, for animal control, the emphasis here again has been on enhancing public safety through education, outreach, and enforcement. So the main intentions have been ramping up the enforcement and outreach related to leash law requirements, with an emphasis on our open space areas. And so both David and Henry have been doing regular weekly patrols through the Carpinteria Bluffs or some of our other open space areas and making contact with folks, educating them about leash laws, in some cases having to issue citations. We're going to keep going with that. We've also been trying to improve our advertising for our adoptable pets and kind of coordinating how we do that, because it happens through a variety of mediums, and making sure that we get those out early and really try to blanket the community with that information. And we've had some great results recently. In fact, just in tonight's city manager's report, we announced that we quickly got Bubba readopted here and rehomed within a couple weeks of having taken him in. So that's what we're trying to work towards. We've had in the past a couple of dogs that we've really struggled to rehome, and we don't have the facilities to be holding on to dogs for the long term. So this is a priority for us to help get the word out there and get dogs rehomed sooner than later. And then finally, as part of that search for a new permit platform, we're hoping to find one that can also take on some of these licensing tasks, including dog licensing, and transition that into an online platform where someone can pay and renew online rather than having to come into City Hall or go into the vet to take care of it. And that concludes my update, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions?
Yeah, this wasn't in the, I don't think this was on one of the slides. It might have been in the staff report, but you had mentioned in the report the rental housing mediation program and how that's still an area where the city wants to do more outreach to the community. And I was wondering if you had considered partnering either with the library or with AgeWell to do some community presentations about it. And even if it could be co-hosted by, council members or, one of us if we were interested, and I would be interested. And so I didn't know if that might be something you could think about when you're looking forward as to how to share some of that information.
Through the mayor, Councilmember Slarson, that's a great idea. We have been brainstorming about how to do some more outreach with the rental housing mediation folks that we contract with from the city of Santa Barbara. Their contract includes a number of outreach events that they will come down and put on here in Santa Barbara, and it's just a matter of us kind of helping connect the dots and figuring out how best we want to use their resources. I can say that just generally, even though we haven't put much effort yet into outreach and getting the word out there about this program that we offer, we did over this last year see a pretty marked increase in the utilization of the program. So whether that speaks to more people having problems potentially with a landlord or a tenant, or if it just speaks to more people getting educated about the availability of this program, word is getting out there, and we just want to kind of help facilitating that and making sure people are aware of it and can take advantage of this program.
Great. And then my other question, this is a quick one. You had said for the updated general plan of elements, you said there's 2 left. Is that right? Or have the 2 already gone to GPUC?
So at the time of publication, there were, or if we were ending at Q1, there were 2 elements that were not yet released to the GPUC, although they have actually already gone to the GPUC earlier this month.
Okay. But
so now all the draft chapters are out there
okay.
In circulation, and the next step really for later here in Q2 or Q3 is to take the feedback that we've received, make some updates and edits to all those draft chapters, and assemble them into a complete public draft that we hope to release early in Q3.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
While our next department gets set up, I just wanted to put a couple things for the record. One is Nick correctly spoke about coming back with an update on the entertainment license and including readings. There's an error in the legislative and policy program where I stated that would be a public hearing. That's incorrect. That would be an update. It could certainly become one in the future, but would just be an update. So wanted to state that for the record. And also, we all approached our reporting a little bit different. You'll notice that not all the slides are the same. One of the things I noticed from Nick's slides is his inclusion of the measurable objectives, and I wanted to make sure the public knew that these quarterly reports coincide with the budget, and the budget includes not only the goals that we're reporting on tonight, but objectives to advance each of those goals, and then performance measures for how we determine our success. This report would be like 4 times as long if we included all those details, so we provided more of a high-level report, but people can actually look at both the budget and this side by side, and they will coincide. And I also noticed it looking at the objectives, and another chance just to thank all of the staff. as we were, Leah Boyd and I were looking at how this would look like in a document, we noticed that ours would be 2 to 3 times larger than some of our neighboring cities that are larger with larger staffs, because our staff were taking on 2 to 3 times as many tasks as you'll see in some of the other agency reports. And so I was proud to see how much we were doing with our small little staff. Now I'll turn it over to Director John Lawson.
Thank you, Michael. Council member, Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm on, if you're following on the staff report, Public Works Department starts on PDF page 97. It's PDF pages 97 to 120. Public Works Department, I'm going to go directly to capital improvements projects. Hold on one moment. Are you able to see that, Fred? Okay. All right. Okay, this is basically a snapshot, so to say, of the capital projects that is in the this fiscal year's budget. And I have in green color the phase for which each project is in right now. Your 2022 pavement rehabilitation project, if you have not seen it, is under construction. It's citywide. The 2023 pavement maintenance and rehabilitation project, that is considered under design, but I like to say it's substantially complete. And what I mean by that is 90% and more. I like to say it's probably 100%. The reason why we haven't gone out to bid is, one, we're still trying to leverage funds of an underfunded project in terms of construction phase. So we have a construction phase that's not fully funded yet. Bluffs 2 Trail project, that is under design. Carpinteria Avenue Bridge Replacement project, design is complete. We actually have federal aid monies as well as our city funds ready to go to get this project underway. As a matter of fact, we're currently in the bid process of the clearing and grubbing. We actually had to re-advertise it again. We didn't receive any bids, and bids are due November 12th. So hopefully we'll get a bid, and then we'll come to your city council, perhaps maybe the second city council meeting of November. Carpinteria High School Crosswalk Safety Improvements Project. That design is complete. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be going over a little bit about the particular funds that we have applied for, city staff has applied for, but the Carpinteria High School Crosswalk Safety Improvement Project, or excuse me, Enhancement Project, that design is complete. We're just levering, just like the 2023 pavement maintenance and rehabilitation project, we're just levering funds for a project or a construction phase that hasn't been fully funded. Library Improvements Project. Design is complete, but it's only for ADA improvements to get the facility to come in conformance to ADA standards, Americans with Disabilities Act standards. The Carpinteria Living Shoreline Project, that's technically, we put that into the design phase. So it's actually technically in the planning and environmental document phase. We actually, I forgot the name of the grant, but excuse me, but we did receive, I believe, $3 million. Don't quote me on that. I know Erin Maker knows at the top of her head because she was the staff member that leveraged those funds. The former Veneco oil pipeline abandonment project, that one is kind of flying under the radar, so to say. It's technically not a construction project. It's an abandonment project of an in-place former oil pipeline. So we actually have the project status on the Public Works Department, or in the Public Works Department web page. So we'll update that as it goes along. But city staff issued a notice to proceed finally to Beacon West to undergo that abandonment project. notice to proceed is effective October 21st. So they just got that issued last week.
And who's Beacon West?
Oh, Beacon West is the contractor that is going to be abandoning the facility as part of that project. So it's not Chevron, it's Beacon West. That is the contractor. Mr. Mayor. Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project, that is under design. Linden Avenue Beach and Beautification Project, that is under design. Linden Avenue Improvements Project between Carpinteria and Linden Avenue overcrossing, that's going on in a redesign due to utility conflicts. So that is the project, if you recall, that is the project that is part of not necessarily part of the Highway 101 project, but it stemmed from the Highway 101 project as mitigation measures because of that project. The Rincon Multi-Use Trail Project, technically that is under design phase right now. There's really no movement to that. However, staff is working with Caltrans to leverage funds. Speaking of funds, the Rincon Multi-Use Trail Project, staff is also applying for the next Active Transportation Program Cycle 7 funds to help complete the design and the environmental document. So I'll get to more of that maybe on another council meeting, perhaps maybe a city manager's update on the Active Transportation Program Cycle 7. Last but not least, the Via Rail Stormwater Project is under construction right now. Okay. The goal of the capital improvement program is to deliver capital projects, utilize all grants, state and federal grants, in order to help with the design of capital assets and to reduce life cycle costs of operation to the extent possible. So that goes on track. Going on to measurable objectives, I mentioned about funding and the particular projects that you just saw in the slides before this. So the Carpinteria Avenue Bridge Replacement Project, $12.4 million is from the Highway Bridge Program. That's a federal aid program, and that's about 88.53%. So the objective of Public Works Department's goal is to secure federal and or state aid funds, no less than 75% of the project cost. So Carpinteria Avenue is a good example where city staff has leveraged more than 75% of outside funding. The Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project, yes, we didn't get to the 75%, but we're not done trying to apply for more grants. So that $570,000, right now it's about 44% of the total cost. And that is from the Community Development Block Grant Fund. So it's another federal aid monies. We're still in the design. Matter of fact, we have to go through our own permitting process with the Architectural Review Board. So we're still there right now. In the meantime, we're concurrently looking for other funds. As a matter of fact, I believe city staff is waiting for the next CDBG, Community Development Block Grant round of funds. So we'll get more of those funds into the construction phase. I mentioned about the Carpinteria High School Crosswalk Safety Improvement Project. We applied for another federal aid program grant called the Safe Streets and Roads for All, SS4A. It's a grant program, and we are seeking $383,000. That's about 90% of the total cost. And of course, the Rincon Multi-Use Trail Project, we are seeking 100% of that from the Active Transportation Program Cycle 7. Moving on, I'm going to pause there. Any questions regarding capital projects before I move on to the next program?
I had one question. So in the community engagement and outreach part of the summary, you mentioned something, a project, the potential downtown Carpinteria sidewalk project. And so I was just trying to figure out, are some of the projects that are mentioned in this not necessarily part of our current CIP plan, but maybe how do they fit in?
Yes, through the Mayor, Councilmember Solorzano, you're referring to the report. So regards to
Yes,
your question, though not a part of that list, staff still, as part of its goal, is to continue going after grants, even if they are not in the current fiscal year budget. But the goal is to complete the overall 5-year CIP, right? So the capital improvement plan, the 5-year CIP, we're trying to lever funds in the future as well, because those what these grants are for. The grants usually are issued, or grants are call for projects for future projects, if that makes sense. So a grant typically is probably a year out or a year earlier to issue for a project that's a year out.
So you're proactively
exactly.
looking for
So
these
that's-
funds even before the projects are priorities,
Yes,
is that right?
yes,
Okay.
that's the best word to say. We're proactively going after these grants. So we're anticipating, or we're having foresight where we're looking at the downtown sidewalk improvement project. That actually is part of the 5-year CIP, not part of this project or this budget season right now, but it's one of those projects where grants are available for that scope of work. Why not go after that? Let's just go after that now and see where we come in the competition.
Great, thank you. That's really good to understand. Thank you.
Okay, if no questions on capital improvement projects, moving on to solid waste, the department goal under this program is continue increasing landfill diversion. I do have some quantifiable numbers here. The first objective is attain 100% resident and business participation in curbside organic collection. So these particular numbers here are actual numbers that I received from our very own environmental program manager, who is contact with E.J. Harrison, or is our point of contact with our solid waste hauler, E.J. Harrison. In regards to residential customers, we have 2,576 out of that 2,578 customers enrolled already. We'll find out what happened to those 2 customers that didn't enroll, but that's the actual number that we have. 53 businesses are in curbside waste collection program as well. The requirement is getting 50 of the 300 commercial accounts to comply. So looks like we got 53 businesses enrolled. All 86 multifamily dwellings or multifamily accounts are in the green waste program. This is just a continuation of that goal with more numbers here. Then the second objective is to attain 100% of food and beverage provider participation in a ban of single-use plastic straws, sippers, and utensils. That is ongoing. However, or unfortunately right now, it's looking like we're not be able to get the 100% compliance within this fiscal year, but it's ongoing. And I like to attribute that to staff capacity. We recently hired environmental program specialists. If you recall, we introduced Delaney Millar, so she's helping Aaron Maker to work on this particular objective. But we'll see those numbers. We'll get improvements to this particular objective, hopefully by next second quarter. Even though I had those 2 programs, those are, I guess, the particular programs I wanted to highlight in terms of anything that's quantifiable. It's not to say that, because we actually have, Public Works Department actually has 7 goals in here. Of the 7, Two had quantifiable numbers, and others, they're no less important. They have tangible results. Like, for example, the Public Works Administration, this goal is to enhance department-wide operational production efficiency. There's no particular number per se or quantifiable numbers. We're just getting our maintenance staff outfitted with mobile devices in order to use the new computer maintenance management system, i.e. GoGov. So, and then another tangible milestone I like to say is under the maintenance division. Maintenance division, there's not a lot of, there's so many words I could say about them, but I think the one word that puts in my mind is resilient. They have been ravaged by injuries, but they still are able to get to the work. Though slow, but they're getting to the work. And we're hiring more maintenance workers right now to fill in the holes, so to say, or the gaps in our staff. So that particular goal, when you get a chance in this report, we're trying to get a diversification of skill sets in our maintenance staff. So though not quantifiable, these are tangible goals that we're trying to meet as well. And we're sending off those who are not injured, sending them off to training as soon as those are available. Matter of fact, 2 staff members of our maintenance division are going to irrigation training in Long Beach. And so that continues on. Yes, some of these are actually, a lot of these programs that haven't been mentioned have tangible milestones to report. So with that, I'm open to any questions regarding the Public Works Department's programs.
Well, looks like it was a really good report because there's no question. Thank you, John. Welcome, Jeanette.
Yeah, tough act to follow. Good evening. Jeanette Gant, Parks, Recreation, Community Services Department. We've had a really busy first quarter, wrapping up an excellent summer season. Their first goal for our administration unit is to modernize operations and improve customer experience. This goal is on track. The department successfully migrated barbecue, picnic, and veteran hall rentals to an online platform called RecDesk. We're working on the integration of sports field rentals and special events onto RecDesk and hope to have that accomplished by the end of Q2. Additionally, the department is working to establish a comprehensive department-wide policies and procedure handbook to streamline operations. The department as a whole participated in various outreach events, including the National Night Out, Girls Inc. Career Day, the Independence Day Parade, HopeNet Mental Health Fair, as well as staffing several commissions and committee meetings. This goal for AgeWell to strengthen community, institution, and collaboration is also on track. AgeWell has had approximately 200 participants, 26 volunteers, and is hosting roughly 95 programs per month. This past quarter, 3 new programs were created that were specifically geared towards senior men, as well as the first Spanish-speaking event was hosted on August 28th, which I know many of you were able to join us for. AgeWell Program Coordinator Jenna Jenkins has presented to both the morning and the noon Rotary Clubs, has held 3 male programming focus group meetings, started a Veterans Weekly Meetup, hosted an outdoor storytelling event, held the first support group in collaboration with hospice, compassionate care, and hosted HopeNet for a presentation and discussion. The first quarter has been marked by significant achievements and growth for AgeWell. The AgeWell team will continue to seek additional funding opportunities, expand partnerships, and develop innovative programs that meet the diverse needs of the community. This goal for the library is on track, and as you've heard from Jody today and at the library Board of Trustees meetings. The community library had a very busy summer, which included a 10-week summer reading program titled I Love a Good Book, which I just love that saying so much. The library also hosted basic computer classes, or added basic computer classes to the program schedule. The library hosted 2 citizenship class series, participated in a number of outreach programs, added more than half of their projected new library counts, and increased its circulation by 7.6%. The libraries also hosted 3 Death Cafe gatherings this quarter alone, which have been very well attended. And the gathering today had approximately 20 participants, which is just amazing. It's an example of another new program that Jody and her team are bringing into the library, and they're just doing such a wonderful job. The goal for the community, sorry, this is just an additional slide of some photos for the library. The goal for the community pool is on track, and the community pool had over 300 youth participants in summer swim lessons, had approximately 1,375 adult lap swim entries, 495 water aerobics entries, 308 masters swim entries, and 204 youth recreational swim entries. The pools also hosted multiple groups at the pool during recreation swim, including the Boys and Girls Club and Fun in the Sun. Staff are working on the creation and publication of an annual program calendar this next quarter, as well as finalizing the staff training manual, which they've made great progress on, and are already planning out spring and summer 2025, which is crazy that we're already working on that. And there are no major expenditures, variances, or financial changes or concerns for quarter one. The Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department would like to thank our colleagues in Public Works who help us each and every day to keep our facilities up and running and the parks in such great shape. And then I'd also like to thank just my amazing staff for all their hard work. It's a small but mighty team. And I think, as John had mentioned, we have a lot more goals that are in your staff report. I just wanted to highlight a few of the key ones to show they're on track and we're making progress. And I'm happy to help answer any questions.
I have one question, if I may. Thank you for your report. I do have a question in terms of the implementation of Rec Desk, which is it seems like a great tool, and allows staff to be maybe the information is more efficient. But in case anyone doesn't know how to do that online, the public still has the opportunity to come in and they'll receive support at City Hall in order to make a reservation.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor Alarcon, for bringing that up. People can come into City Hall and we can help them. We have one of the kiosks up at the front has access to Rec Desk, so we can stand there with them and help them through the entire process. We can also do it over the phone as well. And we are working on getting a part-time recreation leader to join the team to work up at that front desk area to provide even more support and customer service for anyone who wants to come in. And if they need help registering or if they just want to pay in cash or check, they can do that at City Hall as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So can you talk a little bit about the annual pool calendar? Because that's something that I've thought about in the past that it would be great to have. And so it's exciting to hear that it's been in development.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. We're working on the annual pool calendar. Of course, it will always be like a living document. For example, an FYI, we found out yesterday, I believe, that we'll be hosting the boys CIF water polo game tomorrow at 4 p.m. So it's something that will still have last minute additions just because that's the nature of high school sports and CIF. But what our vision is that it will have, key dates. So the start of registration or start of swim lessons, closure dates for our planned winter closure, staff training dates that might close the pool down, or, just those more concrete planned out events and programs so that everyone can see the calendar for the year at a glance. We still do have our specific monthly and weekly calendar, which would show specific times for each thing like lap swim or masters, but this would just be a larger view of what's going on at the pool. And it will be great for external and internal. So for internally, we can use it for planning recruitments in coordination with human resources, coordinating with the fire department for our beach lifeguard training and certification.
And then this was not in the slides, but it was in the report about the ocean beach services. So I saw, so all operations now are out of the boathouse on Ash Avenue, right?
Yes.
And so I wanted to ask, how has that transition gone? Do you feel like there's anything that is lacking now that the little shack at the end of Linden is no longer in operation? Do you feel like things are pretty much going without a hiccup? Or?
Yeah, I feel like the things went well. I did not receive any complaints, so that's always a great sign. And I think it's definitely made it more efficient staffing-wise rather than having to staff 2 locations. We're able to just have staff at the one location at the boathouse. And instead of having to go to the beach shack to pay for and rent your paddleboard and then make it across to the boathouse, you would do it all at one. It's a one-stop shop. And we transitioned everything to a point of sale also on Rec Desk, so they have the computer there to process the transactions. So it's a lot more efficient, and I like to think it's been well received. If anyone disagrees, I would love any feedback or information so we can change anything for the next year.
And then my last question is, in terms of the administration, you talk about these different how-to guides and training materials, and it sounds like that's a kind of a theme that's going through with city staff and trying to get things codified and sort of have best practices. So can you talk about what those different types of documents are that you're working on?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. As we were learning how to build these programs out in Rec Desk, which I have to also give a huge thank you to Ryan Benson, our management analyst, one who helped me with this journey of building out these facilities in Rec Desks. As we learned what to do, we saved all the video recordings with the vendor, and then we also created how-to guides, which are simply just screenshots of each step-by-step with directions. And they're now all saved in a folder so that new staff, like for example, this recreation leader, we can simply provide them with the how-to guides and the training videos, and they'll be able to learn the process now that we've already learned it. And then we're also trying to formalize our policies and procedures, and we talked about this back when we did the budget, but there have been, years and years of policies and procedures, but kind of in different locations, whether it be saved online or saved in a binder at the pool. So we're working to combine all of those and put them together in specific policy and procedure handbooks, again, which will be really helpful for new hire orientation and employee onboarding, and then just for the regular staff trainings that we hold to make sure we review them with the team and everyone understands expectations and procedures on how to do things.
Great. Good. And then my last thing, it's not a question, but it's a comment, and I just want to call out 2 of your staffers. So Joe Gottwald at the community garden, I've had opportunity to speak with him, and he's really, really helpful. If anyone has questions about being involved with the community garden or any of the programming, he's phenomenal. He's so engaging. And then at the library, Eric Castro, I see him everywhere now. He tables at all of these different events for CCP and for, obviously, for the library, for everything. And so it's amazing to see what Jody at the library is able to do with such limited staff. You have such a community presence, and it's really inspiring to see. So just wanted to share that feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Solorzano. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor, that concludes our first quarterly report. Again, we'll be open, happy to stay here tonight or during our one-on-ones talk about ways that we can improve this process, and then also let you know that the quarter 2 report will come in our second meeting in January.
Okay.
So thank you.
All right, thank you. Legislative update, do we have a good? Oh, see, whoop. We're going to receive and file?
Mayor, we can take public comment and then afterwards, yes,
Okay,
move to
public
receive and
comment.
file.
Come on, Fred. You can do it. All right. The recording's going. Okay, how about on Zoom, Brian?
We do, Mayor. We have Patrick O'Connor. Patrick, go ahead. Patrick, you want to unmute yourself?
My apologies. That was a fat finger. I have no comments other than great work.
Okay, must be true.
All right, Mayor, then that is it for
Thank you,
public comment.
Patrick.
I move to receive and file the first quarter department reports.
I'll second.
Fiscal year 2024-25 budget.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, are we doing anything on legislative updates tonight?
I was
No.
kind of liking that, actually.
Okay, committee reports.
I have two reports. So the Santa Barbara Joint Affordable Housing Task Group met on the 24th and discussed, they basically just had roundtable updates from the members, no presentations, and they're going to be looking for a new chair for next year since Doss Williams is going to be stepping down, so that was his last meeting. And then the Harbor Sale Advisory Committee met on the 23rd and is finalizing recommendations to council from the data collection and survey subcommittees. And then also they'll be narrowing down final priorities in our next meeting.
Okay. Attendance at future meetings.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:35. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.